purely as a documentary, I highly recommend it because I had not seen it when it first came out. And I was clicking around, I came across it, and it...
Sirius XM Faction Talk on all things rock.
I encourage everybody to listen to it.
From the British invasion to the metal revolution of LA.
Motley Crue, Def Leppard, Poison, and a million other bands, as you would imagine. My door's open to all. I'll give you the airwaves to make your case and say what's going on.
This is Trunk Nation with your host, Eddie Trunk. Sirius XM's Faction Talk.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? How the hell are you? Welcome to Trunk Nation on what is the 13th day of July. Moving rapidly through the summer. Hope everybody had a good weekend, whatever it is that you got into. And yes, we are here live at 3 o'clock Eastern, noon Pacific, on this Monday to talk rock with you. As usual, our phone number is 844-686-5863, 844-686-5863. And you can also dial directly into the show if you are listening in our live 3 to 5 Eastern window using the SiriusXM app. And you just hit the phone icon. That will take you right into the program as well. And we'll have a lot of time for your calls today, because we are starting off the week in free-for-all mode with nothing but your calls. Well, we got news and the usual stuff to open, but a lot of open phones time for you here to start the week coming off the weekend. So if you want to jump in, grab a line. We'll be getting over to you shortly on the phones. Again, 844-686-5863 is the number. Hope you had like I said, a great weekend, whatever it is that you did do. The biggest thing for me over the weekend was I got a chance to, nothing really music related, but I did get a chance to watch a really cool documentary, really good, which I had not seen before, on Hulk Hogan. It's fairly new. It's on Netflix. I think it's been out for a little while. But man, was that a well done doc that peeled away everything in that guy's life and history and career. I was never a huge I take that back. I was a huge pro wrestling fan when I was a very little kid. When I was, 10, 11 years old, I was way into it. And I was actually out of pro wrestling by the time that Hulk Hogan came into it. So I was not into the whole, the whole Hulk Hogan thing was, I was done with wrestling and kind of out of it as a kid by the time he started. So that was not my era. My era was a little before that. But everybody knew who the guy was. Sadly, he died not long ago, but apparently he was making a documentary. They were making a documentary on his life. And the last interview he ever did was for this documentary. And then, of course, the final episode ends with them covering some of his death. But like anybody that gets enormously successful, quite a roller coaster ride of a life, no doubt, and very, very well done, very in-depth 4-part doc on Netflix, if that is of interest to you. But purely as a documentary, I highly recommend it because I had not seen it when it first came out. And I was clicking around, I came across it, and it really kind of pulled me in. So that was a good one. But nothing musical as far as, my weekend is concerned. Nothing that I went to, no shows that I saw. But that might be different for you guys, and you might want to call in and tell us about that. Again, 844-686-5863. A lot of people do catch shows on the weekend. So you might want to comment on some stuff that you saw or that you got into as far as the world of rock music. So we'll hear from you on anything coming up shortly. As usual, we open the show with some news, and there's a good amount of stuff to dig into. Since I was on live with you last, Anthrax released another song. I mentioned this on Thursday's show from their coming new album, which is coming in September. The song came out officially on Friday. I had heard it earlier. And the song is absolutely phenomenal. It's called The Edge of Perfection. It's kind of like a 7-minute epic, and it's got a very elaborate music video that goes with it as well that maybe you had a chance to look at over the weekend. The song, to me, reminds me of something that would have come off of The Sound of White Noise. It has that kind of, I don't want to say industrial, but industrial vibey guitar riff that runs through it. And it just has that kind of feel, but it's got a great hook and a great melody to it as well. I know the guys are really pumped about the song. They feel it's one of the best things they've ever done. So now 2 tracks out from the coming new Anthrax album, which again is out in full in September. And as I prefer to do, we will do something with the guys closer to the actual album release. It's already being discussed, so as soon as that is sorted out, I will let you know. So if you missed that for whatever reason, it is definitely worth a look and a listen. Also, we had Brian Setzer of the Stray Cats on the show a couple weeks ago to announce a tour that the Stray Cats were doing that had actually gotten rescheduled because Brian had some health issues, which he was very candid about in the interview. If you go back and listen to it, or if you heard it when we did it live, Brian, absolutely got, I forget what he said. He got hooked on some sort of
kratom.
Yeah, what is it, Joel? Like an energy drink?
No, it's like a plant that can be taken like CBD in a number of different ways. So it can be administered, through food. You can smoke it, I think. Anyone, take a pill, a tincture, but it's like a CBD type thing, and I guess it's for energy or so. I'm not sure exactly how it's used, but it's one of those types of products.
Whatever the case may be, and again, I had never heard of it, and Brian did talk about it openly and admitted what was going on in the interview. He got past it and got over it, thankfully, and is okay. And Stray Cats, which are the original 3 members still, did announce a tour, which he was on to promote at that time a couple weeks ago, and now they've expanded that tour with additional dates added for later in the year. Second leg, November 9 through December 6. So about another month added in the fall of additional dates for the Stray Cats, which, like I say, it's always interesting to me because it seems like trios kind of hold together longer with original members as they are still the same 3 guys. A lot of eyes and ears on Bon Jovi as they continue their stand at Madison Square Garden in New York City. Another show performed. They changed the set list up a little bit, bringing in some songs they haven't played in a while. A band like Bon Jovi have so many hits that they can rotate some stuff out, but they're still doing a fair amount of album tracks and songs from more recent records as well. So it is pretty varied in terms of its set list. And you're always going to get Living on a Prayer and You Give Love a Bad Name and, the mega hits, Bad Medicine, etc., Wanted Dead or Alive. But they've been rotating some stuff in and out, and that rotation included Always being brought into the set list, which was a huge ballad, as was Bed of Roses, also brought into the set list. So far, a few shows in, John seems to be holding up pretty well. Again, what I've heard, it seems more than acceptable and light years better than what was going on the last tour. Hopefully he can maintain. Again, the only U.S. dates are in New York City, and from there they go over to the UK and do stadiums. And I would fully expect, if he holds up and feels good about all this when it's done, that they would announce maybe a full nationwide tour in America. We'll see. That has not yet been revealed or discussed. Condolences to guitarist and a friend of mine, Tom Morello, who lost his mom over the weekend. His mom, Mary, lived to 102. So my gosh, did she have a life and a run? If you know much about her story, obviously, huge part of Tom's life. That's a given. But she went through quite a bit in her life and was quite a pioneer in her life. And she was, her and Tom, I mean, she lived, pretty sure Tom had her living at his house, and Tom had canceled some stuff because she had gotten ill. And obviously at 102, that is extremely concerning. And sadly, she did pass away over the weekend. So condolences to Tom and his family on the passing of his mom, Mary, who again was a very big presence in his musical life as well, even at times popping up on his radio show and what have you, and sharing some stories. So again, condolences to the entire family on that loss. A guy who just keeps going and going and going, and I talk about it all the time, he's an absolute freak, is the one and only Alice Cooper. We just had him on not too long ago. A freak of freaks up there with Sammy Hagar territory. And Alice, who is as prolific as ever in his late 70s, doing shows with the Hollywood Vampires, doing a U.S. headline run, doing co-headline runs, making new music, and now announcing another run of headlining dates in America, October 27th through November 21st. Don't forget, around that time, there will also be a couple additional dates here in Vegas with Chris Angel on the Magic Alice mashup that they are doing that I finally saw that I thought was fantastic. There are still a few more shows left for that they have scheduled later in the year as well. As a matter of fact, this additional run of dates that Alice is doing that was announced today ends on November 21st in Reno, Nevada. And I'm pretty sure the shows with Chris are the last couple shows are right around that time.
Yeah, about a week later, they start that Friday. His tour will end on a Saturday, and then the next Friday, the 27th, is when the dates for Welcome to Our Nightmare kick off again.
Okay, so it puts him in the area of Vegas, ending in Reno, although it's 8 hours away. I've never been to Reno, but it's not close. But Alice lives in Arizona, in the Phoenix area. So clearly for him, it's the general area, so it's easy for him to probably go home for a few days, then come back into to Vegas to do those additional shows with Chris. So Alice still out there. These shows will be headline shows, and they will be shows that are based on the Alice's Attic theatrical concept. Mastodon have announced their new album officially. It'll be called Marrow Deep. It'll be released on August 28th. A lot going on with Mastodon. They are still mourning the passing of their guitarist Brent Hinds. I believe it's pronounced Hinds. I'm not sure if it's Hinds or Hines. It's spelled Hinds. But Brent was killed in a motorcycle accident. He had left Mastodon, didn't say good things about them in the time he was gone, but of course that did not diminish in any way the hurt that the guys in the band feel with his death. And a lot of that overshadows this record as well. It'll come out August 28th. Second track from the record released today called Snakes for Dinner. It features a guest appearance from Josh Homme of Queens of the Stone Age on the record. And also, there is a short documentary on YouTube. I've not had a chance to watch it yet. I hope to, maybe even tonight. It's called The Mastodon in the Room, and it is a 35-minute doc that basically talks about what these guys have gone through since Brent's passing and the creation of this record. Band also has a run of U.S. dates announced for September 16th through October 24th that are headlining shows. New song out today. Sounds real good. Very progressive. If you know anything about Mastodon, they definitely have a proggy element to them, and that is also on full display on Snakes for Dinner, the latest track released from the record. We'll do something with these guys probably closer to the album coming out. I do know them. They're good guys. They've gone through their fair share of tragedy in the band. Brent's passing, and then a number of years ago, their manager died of cancer, who also was a friend of mine and a great guy named Nick John. And they did a record very much in celebrating Nick's life at that time as well. Also, speaking of shows that have happened over the weekend, Rush finally got back into action. So for fans in Fort Worth, Texas, and the general Dallas area, you finally got that Rush show in. I mean, man, there was just so much upheaval there, with initially some dates being canceled because of a border issue with them coming back into America from Mexico, and then dates having to be canceled because Geddy Lee lost his voice and had laryngitis. Finally, on Saturday, Rush and Geddy got back up on stage and resumed the 50-something tour. By all accounts, seems to have gone off without a hitch, and we will continue, of course, to follow that tour and continue to follow that as it rolls out. Hopefully no more hiccups or disruptions in the routing and the touring for whatever reason. Also, I can tell you this, I am hearing from several reliable sources that it is not official, and it certainly has not officially been announced yet, but making the buzz in the rumor mill is a residency for Rush at the Sphere here in Vegas. And that will be very interesting if it happens. Of course, it should happen. It's a no-brainer. It would be amazing to have the sound and the visuals of Rush in that building. They certainly would get fans coming from all over the world to see them in that building and for that experience. But the reason why I say it would be really interesting if it happens is because a few years ago, when Alex Lifeson was on this show, I mentioned to him how cool it would be to see Rush doing a residency in Vegas at the Sphere, and he was pretty adamant about not being interested in doing a Vegas residency. Now, he was also very adamant at that time about never touring again. So, you can't put stock in anything here, because obviously he's playing again and he is touring as we speak. So even though he said, no, I wouldn't want to do Vegas, and who knows? But I've heard from more than one person that this is pretty much a done deal, just has yet to be announced, and would likely take place at some point next year. And interestingly, Rush is not playing Vegas on this run of dates. So there's a lot that, fuels this, and they would be a no-brainer for that building. I'm hearing somewhere between 16 and 18 shows are being held. We'll see if that gets confirmed and officially announced at some point. And look, just because they're not playing Vegas on this run of dates also doesn't mean they're not doing that because of the Sphere. Obviously, yes, you would avoid playing Vegas on a tour if you're going to do the Sphere. But the thing about playing the Sphere, everybody goes in there and plays multiple shows over a long period of time usually. It's a destination gig. You pull people from all over the country, all over the world. So, they could have easily played a couple nights at one of the arenas in Vegas and then still easily come back and done the Sphere, because it's a completely different experience, audio, video, and again, a destination gig. The Eagles have done 62 shows or something and counting in that building. All the people that have gone are not from and don't live in Las Vegas. The majority don't. They come from all over the world. So you see my point. But we'll see. We'll keep an eye on that if that should happen. And also keep in mind that, the same company that manages Metallica, who are going into the Sphere is now managing Rush. So not that that plays a lot into it, but there's already a working relationship there if they were to broker a deal and a framework for it, I would think. What else? Another mega band hit the road again in America. That would be AC/DC. They played their first North American show on Saturday in Charlotte as they are continuing branding this tour the Power Up Tour, named after their album, which now is about 5 years old, their last studio album. AC/DC have 18 shows coming up in North America. The Pretty Reckless are the opening act. Once again, on all of them, it is basically a redo of what they did in the last year or two. Same opening act, and I looked over the set list, pretty much the same set list, 21 songs. Some stadiums they are going into for a second time, like here in Vegas. Others they are doing for the first time in certain markets. So if you didn't get a chance to see AC/DC on Power Up, well, you may have a chance to do so. Once again, if in fact they are coming your way, keep an eye open. They might be headed your way and making some of these major cities they did not hit on the first run destinations on the current one. All the routing, of course, is out as they started. And again, when you're watching a tour like this and you're watching a band going out with a singer playing heavy rock that's nearly 80 years old, that's another one you watch and hope and hold your breath for, that all the dates come off without a problem, especially with a lot of people that would travel for something like AC/DC. Yeah, Power Up came out in November of 2020, Joel just told me. So that record is over 5 years old at this point. It's incredible. And the other thing with AC/DC, too, is that a few people emailed me about this and said that on some of the branding, they're starting to get solicitation for tickets, like, trying to sell tickets. And on some of the branding, it said, come and see AC/DC Power Up for the last time. And that got fans thinking, is this their way of saying it's a farewell tour? I brought this up last week on the show. It could be. I mean, I can't imagine they would go on tour again, given Brian's age, at least with Brian. But the other reason why they could be doing that branding is because it's the end of them celebrating the last studio album and branding the tour with that album. So who knows? There could be a few different reasons for that. But I got to think, short of them announcing and branding a farewell tour, that this has got to be it. But who knows? Who knows? AC/DC, of course, continuing to tour with the lineup that they used last time. Chris Chaney on bass, coming in for Cliff Williams, who retired from the band. Matt Logg on drums, coming in for Phil Rudd, who has not returned to the band. And, of course, Stevie Young on rhythm guitar remains as well, of course, in for Malcolm. And you've got Brian and Angus. So the same lineup that you would have seen if you went last year. Like I said, basically a redo of the most recent touring. And one last note that I have today, and that is, and I think this is good, and I think this is needed and important. The music industry has announced that they are going to start branding music that is AI generated or uses AI generated content. And there's going to be two designations. One is branding that says AI generated, the other AI assisted. depending upon how much AI was used in the creation of the song. If the entire thing is AI, I'm imagining it would be AI generated. If certain parts of it, or the writing, or a vocal part, or a music part is AI, then it would be assisted. One music industry tracking organization has said that 90% of professional music producers today are currently using some form of AI to produce music. Whether it's writing, arranging, recording, elements of it, vocal instruments, whatever the case may be. 90%. To me, it's real interesting what's happening here. Again, I've been talking about this a lot. A lot of people have been talking about this. I've been talking about it a lot the last couple of years. It is the AI stuff. There's a pro and a con to it, obviously, on so many aspects of our lives going forward. But strictly speaking, in the music world, I mean, I don't know what to make of this. I have been worried about and screaming about for maybe 10 years now, as most people know, the end of a live concert actually being live. And me ranting about that and what we're seeing happening now in the quote-unquote live industry has bared out, because there are, as I say all the time, a ton of artists out there using AI or pre-recorded fake tracks playing live. Not fake tracks, faking playing live. Tons at every level. I just talked to someone the other day who opened for a band, and the band was all tracks that came on after him, and everyone was walking around backstage saying how great the band sounded because they had no idea it was all tape, and how infuriated they were. And this is happening every day on concert stages at every level and at every festival. Most festivals you go to, every other band, what have you. And don't get me wrong, there are still some real, truly great, truly live bands out there. But you can imagine how infuriating it is. But now what we're talking about with recorded music, is a whole nother problem. Because you can have people that are literally talentless. Can't write, can't sing, can't play. But they can go on their computer and tell AI to make a song and make it sound like this and call it this and what have you. And hey, here's my new song. And it's actually ridiculous when you think about that, right? But it's happening. So they're trying to at least label these songs as being computer generated and not human generated. But here's the problem with this labeling mandate or labeling plan that was announced. It is, as of now, voluntary. So, I mean, if you want to pretend that you just wrote and recorded this masterpiece song, you can still do it, because you don't have to brand it as AI unless you want to. To me, that's got to change. To me, it's got to be mandatory. What's the point? I mean, who's gonna? I mean, I guess you hope people are honest. Rudy Sarzo, about a week ago, put out his first ever solo single Guy's been in the music industry over 50 years. And to his credit, Rudy said it's AI. He admitted that he used AI to make the song and record the song. And honestly, for me, and I love Rudy to death, but I don't have any interest in hearing a song that somebody punched a few keystrokes into a computer and spit it out. That was made by a computer. Could sound great, but it's not the same thing. So I don't know how this all plays out, but you can already see the music industry is trying to figure it out and at least trying to create something that will tell people, hey, what you're hearing was not really done by that person beyond that man or woman punching in a few keywords into a computer. In some cases, AI is used more minimally. People use it for ideas to help them with songwriting. To me, even that's a problem. Because it's just not, it's not the creation of what somebody came up with. We are in such unbelievably interesting, uncharted waters here, folks. We really are. So at least this is an attempt to try to kind of put a little transparency in this, but unless it becomes mandatory, you're still going to have a lot of people who are going to pump stuff out there and claiming that they wrote it or played on it or sang on it that had nothing to do with it beyond they bought a cool AI program that made it. This will be something we will be talking about and following for a long time, and not obviously exclusive to just the music world. It is across the board. And again, there's certainly going to be upsides to it as well. I don't know what the upside will be in music. I mean, the upside in music on some of the live shows is that you're going to hear singers who cannot sing at all anymore, but sound kind of okay all of a sudden live. Oh, man. Joel, anything you want to jump in on?
One note and some birthdays to shout out. I had mentioned last week that the Dead Daisies put out a video from their show in May at the Arcada Theater that they had done with Glenn Hughes. Well, now they've announced that they're doing a second show. It's going to take place at the Canyon Club in Agoura Hills, California on October 2nd. So you can go check that out, their website for details and tickets. And birthdays to shout out today, we'll say happy birthday to Mark Mendoza, who's turning 70, Damon Johnson, 62, and Steve Brown of Trickster, 56.
Oh, wow. I know all of those folks. So not Marco Mendoza, Mark from Twisted Sister?
Correct. Mark from Twisted Sister.
Okay, so big one for him, 70. Of course, Mark is not participating anymore in Twisted Sister. That, of course, was revealed when they decided to move forward and bring in, not that Sebastian had anything to do with it, but just with this new variation on Twisted with Sebastian singing, Mark Mendoza not part of that. Steve recently played the Bon Scott 80th birthday celebration in New York, which was the other day on the 11th, I believe. Steve was part of that. I saw Steve was singing a Bon Scott AC/DC song. Sounded unbelievable. Steve started a Bon Jovi tribute. He should start an AC/DC tribute. I couldn't believe how well he sounded singing AC/DC. And, of course, Damon Johnson was on this show not too long ago for the new Brother Kane album and on with Johnny Van Zant because he's also, of course, in Lynyrd Skynyrd. So happy birthday to all of those gentlemen celebrating a birthday today. Joel, what do you tell? July, okay, 9th, okay. Okay, so you just gave me the breakdown of what the AI things are. AI-generated lead vocal performance, key instrumental performance, Entirely prompt generated would be AI generated. AI assisted means the recording was created substantially by humans, expresses human creativity. However, generative AI was used for some expressive elements. Humans perform the lead vocal and primary instruments. Jesus Christ. Can you imagine going back in a time machine and being like, yeah, there's going to be a time where music is going to have to be branded as to what was done by humans and what was done by a computer. What a time to be alive. It really is. I mean, again, I'm really, for me, you know, as an older person now, about to be 62 next month, for me, the stuff I don't want AI in my music, writing or singing it. I want to hear about AI curing diseases and fixing things with people's health. And I know it's working in those areas too, but I want to hear about the good stuff. I don't want to hear about, is that guy really AI, or is that vocal real, or is that song, or is that written by that person, or was that a computer program, or what did that? But here we are. All right, it is Monday, of course, and that means you get 2 shows today. So right when this one ends, just before 5 Eastern, 3 extra hours, music talk, interviews, requests for the weekly Monday only Trunk Nation on Hair Nation, which again will be live 5 to 8 Eastern over on Channel 39 right when this wraps up. All right, and also this week on Wednesday, we have Adrian Vandenberg joining us live. Adrian, of course, former Whitesnake guitarist, getting ready to tour in the U.S. It's been a while since he's been on the show. He'll be coming on to talk about that tour, essentially playing a lot of Whitesnake material on it. He also has joining him on it Vinnie Moore and Marco Mendoza, who also was in one of the lineups of Whitesnake. So we'll get the lowdown on that whole thing when Adrian joins us live on Wednesday's show. And one last thing before we go to the break and then get over to your phones, we need to, I'm thinking, and Joel can go to the hit list. We could look at this. Joel and I can talk about it during the break. And then if you guys want to call in on some of it, got to figure out here one of the phone shows, because so many of you guys email me and call in all these different throwdowns and top fives and all this stuff that you want to do. And then, of course, we have the recurring stuff that we like to do, whether it's bands that should have been huge or new music spotlight or, you know, whatever it may be. So we're overdue to do some of those shows, and maybe we'll do one tomorrow or Thursday. We'll see. But open to suggestions, ideas, requests on that front. I get them without asking constantly. So if you got an idea, maybe we'll hone in on something for tomorrow and do something like that on tomorrow's show. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, busy phones. Thank you for that. We go free for all. We hear from you after this on Trunk Nation.
The nation is calling. Trunk Nation. Are you answering? Now back to talking all things rock. Sirius XM.
They're amazing.
Faction Talk.
I think I might have the deal for tomorrow. We were looking during the break at the year 86, which of course is 40 years ago, which is crazy. And we were, Joel and I were discussing maybe some plays on 86. And I know somebody had called up, I think it was last week, and said, why don't you do Slippery When Wet versus Appetite. And again, I know they're both enormous records, but I feel they're both very different records, which I don't know could make a good throwdown, but they're just very different. You know, in a way, Appetite kind of blew up what Slippery started, you know, in a certain way. So I don't know how I feel about that one, but I did come up with one that I think could be kind of cool. There were two great debut albums that came out 40 years ago in 1986. The first Tesla album, Mechanical Resonance, and the first Cinderella album, Night Songs. I kind of feel like which was the better debut? Tesla versus Cinderella. Well, you've not really done anything like that before. That could be good. I'm kind of leaning that way. Well, pencil that in and we'll make a final decision before we end here today, just before 5 Eastern time. All right, let's go over to you guys on the phones. Again, 844-686-5863. Rest of the way, whatever you want to hit me with. Here is Tim, and Tim is in Cortland, New York. Tim, go ahead. Get us started. What's going on?
Hi, Ed. Big fan of yours. Just wanted to let you know we're going to be celebrating Dio Day, Ronnie James Dio, this Sunday, July 19th. And it's going to be at the Country Music Park. And also, he had a birthday, I believe, not too long ago, Ronnie.
I believe it was Friday or Saturday would have been his birthday, yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't know if you guys knew about it, but I wanted to put it out there, and got to remember the awesome person he was. You know, he started a lot of the heavy metal. So
well, Tim, I know Ronnie was from Cortland, New York, and tell me what goes on at this celebration. Have they done it before?
Actually, this is the first that I've heard, and I believe his cousin, what's his name?
Rock Feinstein.
Yeah, Feinstein. I believe. I'm not sure if he's going to be there or not, but this is a first, and of course we have a road. It's called Dio Way that we've had for quite a while, which is nice. It would also be great, and I put it in the Facebook. Here in Cortland, it'd be nice to have some type of statue of him or something. But they did put a huge mural on Dave's. He owns Hollywood Restaurant here in Cortland. It's on the side, so it's got him and Ronnie, and it's got Elf, Dio, and it's an awesome. I wish I could send you guys the pictures, but if you go on their website there, you'll be able to see it. But I believe this is the that I've heard.
Where is Cortland, New York exactly? Is it by Syracuse? Is it by Rochester? Where is it?
So we are 30 miles south of Syracuse, and we're in between Syracuse and Ithaca.
Okay.
Actually, yeah.
Gotcha.
So I didn't
All right.
know.
So it's this weekend, Tim, right? It's this coming weekend.
It's this Sunday, yes, the 19th. Yep. And It's going to be 12 p.m. till 8 p.m. And I believe in the morning they're going to have a motorcycle run that's going to be around this area. And so all the proceeds, it's $10 a person, goes to the Cortland High School music department. So, which is awesome.
Right. All right, Tim. Well, thank you. I hope the event goes well. Appreciate that very much. You know, it's interesting, and Tim mentions, obviously, Ronnie's contributions, which are enormous. And again, it's a travesty he has not been recognized by the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And I've said it a million times. He's my number one snub and should go in for the music career achievement, whatever, the same thing they did for Randy Rhoads and Priest and all of that. And Tim is correct. Ronnie's contributions, Tim used, contributions to metal. I would push that way broader and say to rock music in general, because although Ronnie was obviously very associated with heavy music and metal and very influential in that area, if you know anything about Ronnie and you listen to some of the deeper stuff in his catalog, or you listen to something like the song Catch the Rainbow from the Rainbow album, which is a ballad, just a brilliant singer of any style. Sure, he made his name doing heavy music, but I feel it limits the incredible range of his career to just brand him in metal. It's way broader than that if you really know his catalog. But what's interesting is, Ronnie, of course, was from that area of the country, upstate New York, as Tim just said, where Cortland, New York is. But his whole history is very much based in LA, because around the time that he joined Rainbow in the mid-70s, he relocated to Los Angeles and made Los Angeles his home for pretty much 40, 50 years of his life. So even though his roots and where he was born is totally in that area of New York, all of this association with Ronnie is always in LA, because he lived there for so long and had so much history there with the various bands he did starting in the 70s. And that's why, to this day, the official Dio Cancer Fund events are both in LA. The concert, which just happened, and the bowling, which will be coming up in November. But it's great that they're doing something for him, and people are recognizing him in his home area of Cortland, New York as well. Let's say hi to Jacob, who's in Dallas, joining us. Hi, Jacob.
Hey, Eddie. I'm going to the Rush concert tonight, but I have a show idea topic, if there's enough meat on the bone for this one, but I've experienced it with the Rush thing with the cancellations or the rescheduled dates and stuff. But fans call in and, cancellations they've gone through concert-wise, or maybe too wasted, like the Jane's Addiction deal, like their experiences with concert cancellations and stuff like that. What do you think about that topic?
Well, to your point, I don't know if there's enough there. I mean, I don't know how many stories people would have about that. Because again, the other thing is sometimes people, they're not honest about why the show was canceled. Most of the time, shows are canceled because of poor ticket sales. But very, very rarely do they say that. It's always, well, somebody was sick. By the way, I'm not saying that at all was the case with Rush, of course. I'm talking in general. But you don't really get the full answer. So I don't know if there's enough there, Jacob, but I'll think about it.
And I'm going tonight, obviously, and it's my second show since I've been here. I bought the tickets, and then they announced, Getty's sick like a day after. So I kind of was stressful, but it's all good. The videos that came out, he sounds, the same, regular, great. And if you don't sleep on this tour, guys, I'm going twice. So, you should go at least once. Anyone out there, it's one of the greatest things I've ever seen. So, my gosh,
it seems like Rush has been in Dallas for like 4 weeks.
Yes. Well, it started with your show. It started with your speaking show, The World of Rock, came to Texas, and it started with your speaking show. And then obviously Rush was in town, and then, all that happened with the border stuff, and then, his sickness, but it's all good now. So they're eating good barbecue.
So is tonight the last show in that market?
Yes.
Okay. So they're finally.
And then I think they go to Chicago in a couple of days. It's not a quick, the layover is, not long. They go, I think, in a couple of days, actually.
Right. Thursday, Joel's telling me Thursday in Chicago. Okay, so they play tonight, so then they'll get 2 days rest before they play again on Thursday. All right, Jacob, will you enjoy that show? Thank you. Thanks for calling. But yeah, it seems like Rush has been there in Texas for a month. just because there have been so many delays and reschedules and then sickness and then everything that's gone on there. So I'm sure, I mean, nothing against Texas and the Dallas area, Fort Worth and all that, which is a wonderful area. I'm sure they're probably looking forward to finally moving out of there after tonight's show, getting to another city. Jose in Toronto, what's going on, Jose?
Hey, Eddie, how's it going, man? Nice talking
Good,
to you.
Jose. How are you?
So, yeah, I'm good, thank you. So, with regards to we've talked about this a lot of times in your show, the Great Wall of Nirvana thing, and you have mentioned that Maiden, they might have also been, let's say, damaged a little bit by that. So, in my opinion, I completely disagree on that because, for example, Fear of the Dark, which was a #1 album for Maiden, it came out on October of 1992, so 1 year after Nevermind came out. And they were as big as ever. They were like touring, feeling like selling out stadiums all over the world. They played Donington. They did the whole thing. What I think actually damaged Maiden was the exit of Bruce Dickinson later. Because by that time, like Metallica, Maiden, which funnily enough, they're still today like the biggest bands, like metal bands in the world. But I do really think that Nirvana had nothing to do with that. Maiden was as big as ever, but it's the replacement of Dickinson with Bailey that obviously was not the best fit for the band. I love the guy, but he was not. That actually damaged, Maiden for a while until Bruce came back. So that's all I wanted to say to you. But in my opinion, yeah, Maiden was not damaged at all by Nirvana. It was the exit of Bruce Dickinson. My regards to you, Eddie.
Thank you,
care,
Jose.
man.
All right, you too. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Well, Jose, I respectfully, I understand what you're saying, but I respectfully, to some degree, disagree. Because here's why. So Jose is calling from Toronto, so he's obviously in Canada, and it maybe and Jose is using global Iron Maiden touring at that time to justify his position that the change in the music did not at all impact Iron Maiden. But when I talk about these bands getting really hurt in their draw and their interest because of Nevermind and Nirvana coming out and the scene that followed it, I am only talking from a U.S. perspective. I'm not talking from an international perspective. Because like I said the other day, Bon Jovi, who it was obviously an enormous band in the U.S., post 91, 92 struggled greatly in America. I know that for a fact because I talked to John back then about all this. John offered me a job working for his record label at that time. And he was very much trying to navigate going forward. And if you remember, he put out records that were pretty good records, but they didn't have hits on them in America. I'm only talking about America. You know, a record like These Days is a really good record, but there was no big hit on that record. And that's a band that is coming off of having enormous hits. The touring was greatly reduced. He did a solo album that was basically ignored. Richie Sambora did a great solo album that was not a hit in terms of sales. And in case of Iron Maiden, Fear of the Dark was not nearly as big of a record in America. And yeah, when you have a band that's that huge, you're not going to have it's not going to overnight change for them. Like when the wall came down, overnight, it decimated the Britney Foxes of the world. But a band like Iron Maiden, And even a band like Bon Jovi, a band like Def Leppard, it took about a year or so if they were in stream for a record before you really felt that eroding as well. All of them will tell you they took hits. All of them. Sure, I agree with Jose. The singer change did not help at all. But there was still the writing on the wall, to quote an Iron Maiden song. One other thing Jose brings up, the singer change, Blaze Bayley. I saw, again, I think it was in Blabbermouth, there was a story, Blaze Bayley saying, well, I'd like to go to the Hall of Fame induction. This is just such an interesting, I am just fascinated by this Iron Maiden Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Just, I don't know what the word is for it. Disdain from their end. The three guys not in the band who are being inducted, wanting to go, but their fear of retribution and pissing off the band or Rod. You can just feel it. It's so crazy. And then you got Blaze Bayley, who, let's be honest, nothing against Blaze Bayley, but nobody in that building on the night of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction is going to have a clue who Blaze Bayley is or Dennis Stratton. And they're going to stand up there and represent Iron Maiden. One guy who played on half of one album, and the other guy who sang on two albums that were completely off the radar in America and not well received. And there's your representation. That's almost worse for Iron Maiden, I'm sure, in their mind, than them actually showing up to something they don't want anything to do with. Oh my God, can you imagine? The night comes, it's like, and here to accept for Iron Maiden is Dennis Stratton and Blaze Bayley. What? Who? Is that the guy that sang Run to the Hills? It's just so ridiculous. I don't think by checking out of this like Iron Maiden have, I don't know if there's ever been more interest because of them checking. Like it's almost backfired because it's got this morbid curiosity. It's like, what the hell are they going to do? And more than one person had the solution, in my opinion. And I think it's a great idea. Some callers said it too. Just send Eddie up there. Just send out a guy in an Eddie outfit. Have whoever induct them. I'm sure they're calling the usual suspects. They're probably asking Lars or Tom Morello or Slash or, and again, nothing against these people. They're all great people and all friends, actually. But, so it's not a diss on them. I'm just saying, you know what I'm talking about. They're going to go to Dave Grohl. They're going to go to those usual suspects to do, so there's some big name value in seeing somebody talk about Iron Maiden. And then that person walks away from the podium and outstomps a guy in an Eddie outfit, picks up the thing, and walks off. There's your night. And you want to do some sort of all-star tribute band playing Run to the Hills, fine. But that to me would be the only thing. And then this way, the Maiden camp can say to Blaze, Dennis, and Nico, hey, listen, we got a plan. This is what we're going to do. You guys stand down. Stand down. Don't go. Or do they go and just sit at a table, with their breadsticks and glass of champagne, but don't go on stage? Or imagine like the closing jam. All right, I'll go out there and play, I don't know, Can I Play with Madness or Aces High or 2 Minutes to Midnight. And here's Blaze Bayley and Dennis Stratton, who had nothing to do with those songs up there celebrating Iron Maiden. Now, the only other way I see it is that you could just send Nico. That's the only guy not currently in Iron Maiden who had a huge history with the band and is on so many of their classic albums and songs and always was the best, most animated, fun personality guy in the band. And again, that's not a diss on the other guys. They're just different, low-key, different types of people. Nico was always the guy that was the life of the party, so he would be great up there as the Toastmaster, accepting the award. And he could have Dennis and Blaze. I'm not saying they should be excluded if somebody goes, but stand behind them or something, but they shouldn't be the focal people. So that would work too if you just send Nico on behalf of the guys, blah, blah, blah. This is great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Boom, walk off. I mean, there's another scenario. But, they could very well be telling, Rod could be telling everybody, stand down. If you read me, and these guys are out there, like Dennis and Blaze are doing interviews, which is probably making their Maiden's head explode. The current camp. Trust, I'm laughing because I know these guys so well, and I know how they operate and how tight knit they are, and how close to the vest they play everything. And I just can't imagine they're loving that you've got these factions. In one case, somebody who hasn't been in the band in 45 years out there doing interviews and saying, yeah, I want to go. Jesus. I'm telling you, it would have been probably easier if they all just would have shown up, grabbed the award, and walked off stage. But of course, they do have a gig. But as Steve Harris famously said last week, we wouldn't be there even if we didn't have a gig. It is very interesting. Matt in Queens, what's going on, Matt?
What's going on, Eddie? Thanks for taking my call.
Sure thing.
Sure. So I wanted to tell you, I went to see AC/DC in Charlotte over the weekend. That marks my 14th show on the Power Up Tour, 15th if you include Power Trip.
Wow.
Yeah, so I've hit a bunch of shows every year. I hit a ton last year. I went to Buenos Aires in March, which was the most, I think they've ruined concerts for me forever at this point.
I remember you called in. Didn't you call in from one of the international shows or after one of them, right?
I did not. Someone else did. I wanted to,
okay.
But I don't think anybody called in from Argentina yet. But the
somebody
Argentinian
did
crowd, as you
around
know,
that time, right, that went to an international show. I do remember that.
Yeah, but that crowd is just as you'd expect. Like, if you've ever seen the Live at River Plate DVD, like, it's exactly like that. 2.5 hours of just straight up bouncing. Anyway, so I saw the Charlotte show over the weekend, and I wanted to call because I think, given that I've seen them every year at this point since this has started, I've kind of gotten this unique experience of seeing the progression of the band in person, rather than just through the YouTube videos. So, like, I've seen Brian's voice, I've seen how the band's, how tight they are, if they're not tight or whatever. And, man, I can't explain it. I don't know how he does it, but it seems like every year Brian is just, like, pushing new levels, new energy, like, belting out these notes that you could never expect him to belt out at that age. And, of course, he's not 30 or 40 anymore, but I still think it's very admirable what he's doing. And I wanted to say to you, I don't know if you had plans to go to the Allegiant show this year, but if you're in town, I urge you to go, but this time try through your sources to source a pit ticket, because that really is the way to experience the show, I think.
Yeah, because last time I went, when they played, it was last year, I think, I was in the, I was in a box, and the boxes in Allegiant are outside. You can step down and go outside into like a regular seated area. But yeah, I would like to maybe have that experience, and I'll see. I'll try to. I'm not sure if I'm going to be in Vegas when they play here, which is coming up. I think it's August 1st. But I will If I am, I will see about trying to go to that. I'm not sure where I'm going to be or what my plans are going to be. But having seen them last year, I got a pretty good taste of what they're doing. Now, let me ask you this, Matt, since you've gone to multiple shows. Have they changed anything in terms of the set, or has it been locked pretty much the same since the beginning?
They've been changed. Last year they were doing this rotating slot where they'd rotate between 4 songs just in one spot. And then for this leg, and I think they brought it out in Australia and South America, they brought out Jailbreak, which is really cool. They haven't played that since like the Razor's Edge tour. So that's something new for people who haven't seen them last year, at least in the U.S.
And you feel that, because some people had said they thought Brian sounded like he would be running out of steam a little bit towards the end of the show. Did you feel that or no?
No, not really. It's also different being in person, you know. So like it like the energy, like you feel that energy, you know. So like there's notes he's probably missing. There's stuff that he's not hitting like you would expect him to. But I don't like at least the show over the weekend. Like everybody I was with, we were talking. We were like, man, that was fucking phenomenal. Like, and we've all seen them many times. So like it's crazy to even think that he could still hit those notes and stuff. And to the point of Brian, a show idea, because I do think they could be different categories. Top 5 frontmen versus top 5 singers.
We've done that. We've actually done that before. We could do it again. Yeah, we could do it again. And thank you, Matt, for the call. We could absolutely do that. But yeah, those are two very, very different things. Singers and frontmen. Very, very different. Some are great at both. Some are great at one or the other. But a frontman, meaning a performer, versus a singer, meaning just purely a vocal ability, are two very, very different things. So we did do that for sure, but it's been a while. Look, when you look at what Brian Johnson is doing, Joel, is Brian 79? 78? Joel will look that up. He's probably 78, 79.
He is 78.
When is his birthday?
October 5th. So he'll be 79 in October.
Okay, so he's a couple months away. He's a few months away from 79 years old. And of course, we know an unceremonial parting. They reconcile. The hearing stuff that gets fixed. Whatever they did there. But for a 78, closer to 79-year-old man to be doing a 2-hour plus concert on a stadium-size stage, singing AC/DC songs is absolutely remarkable. I don't care if he's only 50% of what he was on the records or in his prime. That is still remarkable. That is remarkable. I mean, how many 79-year-old people do you know that could even walk back and forth a football field length stage for 2 hours while having a conversation, let alone singing AC/DC songs? 78 going on 79-year-old guy. Some of this stuff we're seeing, you guys, is crazy. I mean, and Brian doing what he's doing. Sammy Hagar, who is in England right now, getting rave reviews. Sammy has not toured in the UK in over 30 years. I'm reading the reviews. People are astonished that this guy, who is 100% real, is over there singing these songs at his age, same age. And then, of course, you have the top freak in Mick Jagger, who is, what is he, 80? Joel, did you tell me last week he's 83? 82?
82. And so he's actually going to be 83 at the end of the month.
So days away from 83 years old. And if you saw what he did on the last tour, that's the bar. that's not human. All this stuff is not human. And who knows, Jagger's, I didn't watch it, but there's an interview. They did, Jagger did a few interviews making the rounds. He's saying, saw a headline, headline said something like, there's nothing good about getting old. But yeah, when you're Mick Jagger, nearly 83 though, and still interested in going out and touring. He still said, we'll see maybe about next year. This is just stuff that we've never seen because, again, in all three of these instances, this is not the Eagles. This is not Crosby, Stills, and Nash. Meaning these people are not playing acoustic-based, laid-back music. These people cannot come out there sitting on a bar stool in flip-flops with an acoustic guitar. Bob Dylan can do that. This is high-energy rock music performed by people of this age. That makes it even more insane. And again, throw Alice Cooper into this discussion as well, who may be, Jagger, again, untouchable as the number one freak, not even close, because he is still making new music. New record came out on Friday. But they are not touring to the level of an Alice Cooper. And Alice is a few years younger. Alice, the Stones play a show a week when they tour and can take 2 weeks off. Alice is still going out there playing 5 nights a week with 2 different bands and still making new music as well. It's some of this stuff we're seeing is nuts. All right, let's do a break. When we come back, we'll continue seeing what else we get into. I'm really feeling the better debut from 40 years ago. Night Songs from Cinderella, Tesla, Mechanical Resonance. I'm really kind of feeling, we haven't done like a real kind of mid-80s-y sort of thing in a while. Those are both great records. Kind of feeling like we should do that tomorrow. We'll make a final call here before we end in about 40 minutes, but I'm kind of leaning that way. I think that's a good one. Both 40 years, both debuts. We'll rubber stamp it by the time we end the show in just a bit. Don't forget, 2 shows today with the Hair Nation show right after this one, given that it's a Monday with music requests and all that good stuff as well. I'll be back with more of your calls on a free-for-all Monday here on Trunk Nation right after.
If it's rock, we're talking about it.
Trunk Nation.
With Eddie Trunk.
SiriusXM's Faction Talk.
All right, we are into the, as they call it, the dog days of summer. Now into the middle of July here. Working our way through a Monday and another week of talking rock with you here on Trunk Nation. Faction Talk 103, 3 o'clock Eastern, live every day. And, of course, anytime using the SiriusXM app. Get caught up on anything you may have missed on the app. And, again, remember, follow us on social media. Me, at Eddie Trunk. Very simple. Simply my name on all the platforms. You'll find me on Instagram, X, and the page on Facebook and YouTube. And the show account is at Trunk Nation SXM. That is on X, Instagram, and that is on TikTok. You'll see some clips and some video and stuff up there, so have a look there as well. Full interviews in video on the YouTube page. All right, back into it on the phones. Let's go to Travis, who is in Washington, has been waiting for a bit. Travis, are you in D.C. or in the state of Washington?
I'm in the state of Washington.
All right, welcome. What's going on?
Well, so I was laughing because your previous callers were talking about like Iron Maiden and AC/DC and all that kind of stuff. And I called to talk about a Van Halen tribute band. So when
That's
a little
okay.
bit of everything. That's
Well,
what,
let me tell you,
anyways,
we always, that's the whole thing. We love doing a little bit of everything. You never know what we're going to get into, and that's what I love doing. But I'll tell you, man, and I've been talking about it a lot, it is nuts what's happening with some of these tribute bands and how big some of them are getting, and that is definitely becoming a story.
Yeah. I went and watched the Atomic Punks on Thursday. And, I really had no expectations, really. I'd heard of them before. I'd kind of followed them on Instagram, on social media, but I was like, it was a free show. It was lawn seating, so you had to bring a lawn chair. And I really had a good time. They were really good. Most of the people there were, I'm 53, so I think most of the people that were there were probably 50 to 65 years old. There's an area where a bunch of the people are close to the stage dancing, and I commented to a friend that there's a lot of artificial hips and a lot of artificial knees up there talking out the Atomic Punk. And but anyways, it was a really good show. They covered, they covered songs on all of the first 6 albums, and I was, pleasantly surprised at how good they were.
Well, you've never seen them before. They've been around for a long time.
I know, and they came through like a casino that's a couple hours north of here, and I just didn't have a chance to go see them, and then I just happened to pop up on my Instagram feed that they were going to be up the road from me, and actually in all of Washington, and it says it's a free show, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to go up there. And on a Thursday, it was gorgeous, it was like 75 degrees, it was perfect, and just see how it goes.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, and yeah, they're one of the. I don't know the exact history, and thank you, Travis, but I'm pretty sure they're probably one of the earlier Van Halen tribute bands. And if you don't know the history of that band, the Atomic Punks, that is the band that some of the guys in Steel Panther, that's what they came out of. Like the early original Atomic Punks, it was the same, the guitar player in Steel Panther who uses the name Satchel, whose real name is Russ Parrish, he came from the Atomic Punks. And Ralph, the singer in Steel Panther, who uses the name Michael Starr, he came from Atomic Punks. And actually, the current bass player in Steel Panther, Joe Lester, was, I don't know what Joe's name is that he uses in Steel Panther, but Joe was in a later version of the Atomic Punks and only left because he got the current gig in Steel Panther. So there's a very big lineage between Steel Panther and how they kind of were born out of the early version of Atomic Punks. Now, what happens with these tribute bands is some of these people leave or go on to do other things, and then they just replace the person, like in any band. So they've had some great guitar players in there and people doing the lead vocal stuff as well across the board. But they're one of the earlier ones. They were one of the first ones I remember hearing about playing like Southern California circuit. I never saw them because I was on the East Coast, but I remember hearing a lot about them. And of course, those guys going on to do original music. I mean, the first thing that Russ did, who I believe he lives, I think he lives in Vegas, Russ. The first original music thing he did was he was in Fight, the Halford Band. That first album, which is a great album, War of Words, if you look at the credits on that record, one of the guitar players is Russ Parrish. That is Satchel from Steel Panther. So some of these guys come out of tribute bands, morph into doing original stuff, or in the case of Steel Panther, kind of original parody stuff. But he also did Fight with Halford. Some of these guys never leave the tribute thing because it's so lucrative. I had a friend, one of my friends in L.A. this weekend. He told me he went to see think it was Saturday, he told me he went to see a tribute night of a Bee Gees tribute and an ABBA tribute in the same night. It was a little amphitheater, 3,000 people. You know how many bands like can't sell 100 hard tickets in a club? I mean, I don't know if the place was totally full, but they're playing a 3,000 cap amphitheater. It's nuts. It's crazy. Chris in South Carolina. Go ahead, Chris.
Hey, Ed, I was in Charlotte as well for AC/DC. I just want to say, man, I've been going to concerts since 1989, and this was one of those rare life-changing experiences. If people haven't gone to see this, you've got to go if you want to experience that, what I call the power lift. I mean, are they a little older? Sure. Is it live at the River Plate? No, but, I mean, pretty damn close. And the only gripes I had were the guitar solo was a little long, and that's coming from a guitar player. And the crowd where I was sitting, I was in a good section, but I thought it could have been a little more energetic. I mean, how do you not bounce up and down with your arms around your neighbors singing Dirty Deeds? I don't know, but maybe that's me expecting live at the River Plate. But that's
I think the problem there, Chris, is the age of the audience. I mean, I'm sure. Look, AC/DC is so huge; they're going to draw everything from 15 to 75-year-old people, no doubt. But still, I think the core of their audience is probably in the older side. That's not jumping around on their bad hip anymore, So that's probably why.
Yeah, but it was great, man. I mean, amazing.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. And on the guitar solo, was that in Let There Be Rock? Is that where he did it, right?
Yes, it was the last song before the encore.
Right. Yeah, I've felt that way as well. And I know when I went to see them last year, people in my group felt that way as well, that it went on forever. And as much as it's great to see Angus on his back and spinning around and doing all that, you're kind of like, man, I could have gotten 3 more songs here. It's very, very long.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you, man. I'm glad that you had a positive experience and you enjoyed it. Again, this is what I love about doing a show every day with you guys and it being live and being able to react to what's going on out there, because when Rush went out, we had people calling in from the first shows of that, and Triumph, the same thing. And now with AC/DC out there, the same thing, and Bon Jovi, the same thing. And that's good. I always say, I call this sports talk for rock fans, After a big game, people call in. After a big concert, people call in with their honest appraisals as to what they're seeing and hearing. And I'm sure we'll be getting this now with AC/DC as this tour runs through the U.S. and hits these certain markets and people get a chance to give their take. But I love the fact that this can become a community for people to, talk about that and call in and give their reports. One other thing about that guitar solo being so long, though, is think about it too. I mean, guitar solos, drum solos, bass solos. I'm sure most of you guys would agree with me. With very, very, very few exceptions, you'd much rather hear a few more songs in place of somebody noodling or doing a solo. But there's a reason for it beyond just the person having a spotlight solo show-off moment. It's because it gives somebody else the chance to get a break. And as we talked about, when you're AC/DC with a singer in his late 70s, you need to find a way to do something on that stage and also give that person, that singer, a chance to go off stage, go backstage, go in his tent off the side of the stage, get some oxygen, change his shirt, cool down, whatever he needs to do. A lot of extended soloing is for that reason, to help preserve your singer and give them a break. When I went to see Journey earlier this year, Arnell was off the stage a good, I'd say 30, 40% of the show. Neil did an extended solo, but the other thing was Journey is now having 2 or 3 different people besides Arnel sing lead vocals on some songs in the set, including their drummer, Dean Castronovo. And that's a great luxury to be able to have people that can do that because, again, it gives your singer, even though Arnel is not nearly as old, it's very challenging stuff to be singing Steve Perry. So it gives him a chance to get a little break. Here's Ed in Houston. Hey, Ed, go ahead.
Hey, Eddie, you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. Hey, yeah, we've met here at Pub and Warehouse Live and all that. Always cool seeing you. I just got 3 things. Yeah, one is about the just what we've been talking about, basically, the tribute acts. I just bought tickets to see Brit Floyd. That I think you talked to the guy on Friday here at the Bayou Music Center. Seats 3,500 people. And it was basically 90% full, but I happened to get 2 tickets for $50 because they were like 100 and some, but somebody was selling them for $50. So that'll be cool. Never seen them. And 3,500, like you said, a lot of people like to pull that. The other thing on the 2 documentaries, Burning Ambition, Iron Maiden, great. I really liked it. It was good. Like you said, nothing earth-shaking, ground-relieving. What I didn't get was why is Javier Bardem all of the time talking? I mean, is he like the heavy metal guy now, Javier Bardem? I mean, I don't know. I think they could have picked somebody else.
Look, let me tell you something. And I don't know if Javier Bardem, the actor, is apparently he's a huge Iron Maiden fan, and that's great. I'm not denying that he is, but here's the bottom line. Whenever any artist can find someone who is, or even in this case, a filmmaker or a producer of a film or whatever, can find someone who is a fan. Thank you, Ed, for the call. Who is a fan. And it's outside of the expected person to be a fan, they will lean on that forever. Meaning that in an Iron Maiden documentary, of course you would expect to see James Hetfield or Dave Mustaine or Scott Ian or, Kerry King or, whoever. You know where I'm going, right? The big metal names, right, who were influenced by Maiden. Tons of people you could pick. That's a given. And those people are great and all good, right? But if you can find somebody who is not from the heavy rock music world, but is a fan and bring that totally different perspective and that totally different branding and imaging and hook for people exactly be like, wow, I didn't know that Brad Pitt loved Slayer. Wow, I didn't expect to see him in this. That's exactly why they do it. For exactly that reason, because it's not expected. And it's someone outside of the music world who is professing their love for that band. Now, look, sometimes those people are legitimate, and I don't know Javier Bardem at all, and I don't have any reason to think he's not a legitimate Maiden fan. But I know for a fact there are instances where, let's just say the person is a casual fan at best, but because they are a big celebrity in another world, whether it's sports, acting, whatever, that person's going to get them in that movie because of the reason I just told you. Holy shit, look, it's somebody different. Holy shit, look, it's a big actor. Who knew they loved whatever band? So there's a lot that drives that kind of thing. There's a lot of that mentality in there. There's 2 things any band loves, any big band loves. The younger, current, hip band professing their love for them, or somebody who is very successful and recognizable in a totally different world professing their love for them. All bands love that stuff. Back to Brit Floyd, which he brought up, which is the Pink Floyd tribute. And yes, we did have one of the guys on talking about tribute bands and talking about the success of that band. He was mentioning he got tickets to see them in a 3,000-seat venue in Houston. They are playing 2 nights at Red Rocks outside of Denver. I mean, that is just insane for a tribute act. So the Houston gig is, on the smaller side. I'm not the hugest Pink Floyd fan. I mean, I like Pink Floyd, but I'm not like huge fan. But I would go. I'm just curious, and they invited me. I would go if I get the opportunity. I know that they're here in Vegas as one of the last dates of the year they play is here, and they're playing an arena here. Just crazy to be doing that kind of business as a tribute act. But again, I say it all the time, if you're an older musician and you're good at what you do and you're looking for a way to go out and make money playing music, I don't blame you one bit if you go do a tribute or a cover band. Way easier to get people out, way easier to have a fighting chance on making a little money and playing in front of people than being 60 and writing new songs and thinking you're going to get anywhere with that. That's like, you might as well buy a lottery ticket. You get a better shot there. And I don't care how good your music is. That's just the truth. Here's Greg in Toronto. What's going on, Greg?
Hey, Eddie. Just calling for 2 things. First of all, last week they had a private showing for the new Bangers film about Neil Peart. I didn't get Greg, let me stop you there. I had no idea about this. You're telling me that those guys, Sam and those guys, did a doc on Neil Peart? Yep, it screened last week in Toronto. It was a private screening.
That's not been reported anywhere. I've not even seen a press release that was done.
That's why I called, because I haven't heard you mention it. I listen to you every day. And I just thought maybe I missed it or you didn't catch it. But yeah, no, they definitely had it. I've talked to several people that went, all good reports. The only thing that was critical from people who I thought were not real true Rush fans like ourselves were that they said it might have been a bit too long. But I've heard it's really, really good. And some people I knew Neil and were quite emotional about it. So
I'm saying no, just because that subject matter. I mean, I want to, if it's a good documentary and there's content and it's somebody or something I'm interested in, I don't want it to end. I never want it.
It's an hour and 45 minutes, which I don't think is too long, totally especially for that kind of content. And considering the depth that guy possessed with his literary prowess and just, how he lived his life, riding his bikes and his motorcycles and everything. But I can't wait to see it. I'm quite excited about that.
Have you seen? Wait, Greg, hold on. I got to, because I'm curious about this. Have you seen this? Has this been reported that this exists anywhere? In Toronto, has it been in the press, or has there been?
It has not been in the press at all. But I know some people that are tight with the band, and I also know, like I said, I know several people that were at the screening. It definitely happened.
And was it a test screening? You mean for them to show
I don't think it was a test screening. I think it's a finished product. It might have been. Maybe they were trying to get a reaction, but there was a pretty, it was mostly musicians, and I don't know if there was any media there. I don't know enough. The people I spoke to were people that work with the band and other musicians from Toronto.
Huh. First I'm hearing about it. I had no idea something like this was coming. I'm thrilled and I'm excited, but I mean, it's not been reported anywhere that there's a Neil Peart doc that was made.
Well, you're going to see it. It's definitely Bangers.
Yeah, well, that would make sense because they did Beyond the Lighted Stage, so that would make sense.
Oh, yeah. And Eddie, just a quick throwdown suggestion. Something, two of my favorite live albums ever. I think your audience would eat it up, and I think it'd be tight. Would be Live Bootleg versus Strangers in the Night.
Yeah, look, Greg. Those are two. Thank you, Greg, for the call. Those are two of my all-time favorites. But I don't know how many people. Again, I could do 2 weeks of UFO-based stuff on this show, UFO the band. But I love the band to death, as everybody knows. I also just know that we're never that big I don't think, to be able to get into doing throwdowns and top fives against anyone, because as much as people who know and worship the band like me, it's not like in that same category of an Aerosmith, not even by a mile in terms of popularity. And when you do that stuff on the air, you got to come up with two things that everybody is really into for the most part and knows to keep everyone involved. Otherwise, it's a landslide one way or the other. So, look, I'd love to do, Mechanics versus Battle of the Chapman Records, Mechanics versus Wild Willing. I'd love to do any of that kind of stuff. Lights Out versus Obsession. I just know better because I don't want half the people in the audience to be like, huh? I don't know those records. Doesn't work then. Joel just said he looked and also cannot find anything online about the existence of a Neil Peart documentary. Now, I'm not telling you Greg is lying by any stretch, but I have heard nothing about this. You would think if a Neil Peart documentary was done or in production, there would have been some information about it. Some press release, something leaked, something came out somewhere along the lines. Nothing. So, assuming it does exist, and this did happen, as Greg said, they have done an incredible job keeping this under wraps until just now when Greg just called about it. And I don't know why you'd keep it so under wraps unless that screening that they're talking about doing was a test screening where a filmmaker shows the film to a select audience just to get feedback before they do what they call locking the picture, meaning doing the final edit and not being able to change anything. That happens all the time. And if you are invited to one of those screenings, that's a test. Sometimes you have to also sign an agreement or agree to not talking about it or not talking about it in too much detail. But in this case, it's not even detail. In this case, it's like nothing. Let's get Kevin in California in here. Kevin, thanks for waiting. You're on the air.
Hey, Eddie, after seeing all these clips of the anniversary of the Back to the Beginning show, I got to thinking hypothetically, how would that have gone down? Would it have gone down if Ronnie was still alive and or if Heaven and Hell were still doing their thing? And I wanted your take on that, hypothetically.
Wow, that's a good question. I've not really thought about that, Kevin. So you're saying if the Dio Sabbath, Tony Geezer, Vinnie, Ronnie was active and touring and making records still last year, would Tony and Geezer have stopped down to do that tribute show? That's a great question, and I gotta say, probably not, because a lot, again, people forget about Back to the Beginning. The whole reason it's looked at now as a tribute to Ozzy and Ozzy's farewell because he knew he was dying and all that. None of that was true. Back to the Beginning was a tribute to Black Sabbath and the original lineup playing one last time with Bill Ward. That's what Back to the Beginning was originally for and about. And then it became this thing where there's an Ozzy solo set, and then sadly we didn't know just a couple weeks after that Ozzy would die. I mean, but if things were going well for Sabbath and Dio, I don't think Tony and Geezer would have said, now is the right time to do that. We'll do that when this ends.
And I'm wondering if Sharon would even brought it up to the guys, and would have Ronnie have stepped aside for it, or because there's no way he would be invited, I would think, to be part of it.
Well, and if you remember, in the mid-'90s, you had Sabbath with...
Yeah.
You had Sabbath with Dio around the time of Dehumanizer. I forget the story there. It was an Ozfest or something, and Ronnie refused to do it because back then in like 95, 96, it was billed. I remember what it was. The Ozfest was billed as Ozzy's farewell show. And it was like, you know, Ozzy did like 15 farewell tours, as everyone knows. And back then, that was at the time, the farewell. And the deal was that Sabbath was going to open for the Ozzy solo set at an Ozfest. And Ronnie got so pissed off that he left the band, and they ended up using Rob Halford.
So your take from last year would be if Heaven and Hell was still doing the thing, Back to the Beginning never would have happened.
I don't think, I'm not saying it would have never, ever happened, but if they were in a touring album cycle and things were going well and everybody was getting along, I think, because look, the guys you'd need for that from Heaven and Hell would be Tony and Geezer. I think Tony and Geezer would have said, yeah, maybe we'll do a final show with Bill and Ozzy just as a farewell. Ozzy's not doing well, we get it. But remember, at the time that Back to the Beginning happened, nobody knew Ozzy was going to, to pass away so soon afterwards. Thank you, Kevin, for the call. So they might have just said, hey, look, let us finish what we're doing. Let's look at that in a year or two. I mean, everybody, Back to the Beginning is coming up again because the year anniversary was like last week. But again, I think everybody forgets what really went on around Back to the Beginning. It was not initially thought of as an Ozzy farewell, which it kind of became. If you remember, Tony Iommi was on this show right after Back to the Beginning, saying he wished Ozzy did not do a solo set because it took songs away from Sabbath set and it was about Sabbath. Also remember, Power Trip a year or two earlier offered the original Sabbath a ton of money to play. Tony confirmed that on this show and said they checked out of it because they did not feel Ozzy could do a full show. And then Power Trip went and hired Ozzy solo to replace Sabbath, which Tony was astonished by because they checked out of it because they didn't think Ozzy could do it. And then, of course, Ozzy did check out of that and was replaced by Judas Priest. And then, flash forward, okay, we'll do this big tribute to Sabbath. Ozzy wants to play one last time with Bill. That's what we'll do. And then the whole thing becomes this giant tribute show and Ozzy solo set, Sabbath solo set. Bill comes out there with his shirt off. So you got to remember like how it started and what it all ended up becoming. But yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting thing to ponder. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. Hey, let's do it. I'm going to give it a shot. Let's do it. Could be fun. Throwdown tomorrow. which debut do you favor from 1986, 40 years ago? Cinderella Night Songs, Tesla, Mechanical Resonance. Both are great. You can only pick one. Let's do that as a throwdown tomorrow. We'll catch you 3 Eastern tomorrow for that. And again, catch you coming up in a few on Hair Nation.